We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here, joined once again by Michael. And allegedly, there is a football game about to kick off in 2 minutes, Michael.
We have to start right now. So just to get this out of the way before anything else, we have to...
You know, Michael, I think if we pick this game 30 minutes from now, I don't think it has any bearing on what's acting, to be perfectly
Who
honest
knows?
with you.
Daniel Jones might get hurt early.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that could
wow.
affect the
That's going to
outcome.
make a huge difference. That's going to make a huge difference on the
The
outcome.
Giants are 6.5 point favorites in Germany against the Carolina Panthers, where the Panthers are technically the home team. But this game is in Germany. I'm taking Carolina. It feels like every overseas, London, Brazil, whatever, every foreign nation game is always tight. And I know the Panthers are pretty terrible, but like the Giants are also rather awful. I know that Jones has sort of kind of looked, I don't know. I can't even say he's looked better because he hasn't. It's just such a mess. Both teams really. The Panthers actually won a game last week. So I'm going to take Carolina plus 6.5, just banking on this game being tight. Yeah.
I want to take Carolina too, Michael. You know, kind of lost in all the happenings of last week that I thought was that, from what I've seen, Bryce Young probably had one of the best games of his young career.
Yeah, it's just the Saints. You know, the Saints, I'm upset because before
I'm
the
not.
season started, no, I'll tell you why I'm upset. I'm upset because I was very adamant in my conversations that the Saints would be bad this year, that there's no reason for them to be good, outside of Alvin Kamara and, like, I guess Chris Olave, but Chris Olave has a lot of issues, like, injuries and whatnot, and I don't like Derek Carr enough. I was just like, Kamara's gonna be the focal point, and everything else just kind of stinks, like, throughout the entire team. The defense is, like, solid, but it just might not matter. And I was so all in on the Saints being really, really bad. Like, I remember doing some early standings predictions with Nick, and I'd have the Saints. I wanted the Saints truly finishing fourth, but I was like always last second bitching out on like Carolina. I was like, all right, whatever. And then I drank the Kool-Aid of all these people, media people, whatever, saying like, oh, the Saints could be like a dark horse, what's Kirk Cousins even going to look like? And the Saints have a good defense and the new offensive coordinator, and their offense could look a lot better. And defense we know has been good. They could be a sneaky 10-win team that wins their division, and Tampa is going to get worse without their whatever, all that sort of stuff, all of it. And I believed it. I bought into it. I trusted it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, they're right. They're right. They're right. And here we are, week 10, and the New Orleans Saints are what, 2-7, 2-8. So
2-7.
it's nice. Feels like vindicating, but it makes me upset that I didn't.
7-game losing streak, longest losing streak of any team
Yes.
this season.
Yeah, and just based off who they play this week, it might be tough to break that. But yeah, it's nice. I'm happy to see the Saints fail. Always happy to see the Saints fail. But anyways, not to fully get into football to kick off the show, we have some other sports that we wanted to dabble in first.
Yeah, so I kind of want to jump into. I mean, I really don't want to talk about basketball because the Sixers have the worst record in the NBA.
Yeah, could not imagine saying that at this point in the year, for sure.
And you have Tyrese Maxey's now going to miss the next few weeks. Paul George is still
He's probably just not fully healthy
He's
because he
still,
didn't
yeah,
look
he's just, I
good.
don't want to say he's not fully healthy. I think he's just knocking the rust off. Remember, his injury happened very early in the preseason,
Hmm.
and he needs a couple weeks to get back. Surprise, surprise, the Caleb Martin signing looks really terrible. Um, and I just kind of, I don't know, my kind of talking point with the Sixers, Michael, is um, if the Sixers, I don't know. I'll ask you this. I was just thinking about this. If Joel is just going to be a question mark the entire season because of his name, if you're going to be really bad this year, like when I say bad, I mean like you rush Joel back and you like sneak in as like into the playoff tournament,
Hmm. The plan.
the play in, right? Like,
I mean, that's what you did last year.
but my I guess with my point is like, is it worth it to just rest everyone? Let me say like rest Joel. If Paul George is going to be trying to rush back because of this injury, rest him, and then just I don't
What,
know,
just tank the year out,
just tank
basically?
the season if it's going to help.
Like, my thought is that we were preached the entire off season, basically, once all these plans of what was gonna happen with Embiid. Listen, even the fans were also saying this, a lot of fans, they can refute it, but it's true. How many times do they call into WIP? How many times do you see on Twitter? How many times do you see everywhere? Talk to me in April, talk to me in May, talk to me in the playoffs. I don't care, whatever, all that stuff. And like, I get it, understandable, totally valid based on how this team's performed the last like decade. Um, but we were preached more than ever that the regular season this year was not going to matter from the team. Like basically, like we are going to do everything in our human capabilities to ensure that Joel Embiid is going to be healthy come playoff time. Whatever that takes, whatever that is needed to do that, we are going to do that. And I understand that being 1-7 or whatever is highly unideal, and their schedule for the next like week does simply not get easier. So it might, unfortunately, like today they play Charlotte, which would be nice to get a win. But obviously nothing is guaranteed as they look really, really bad right now. Um, but listen, to write the entire season off in November and just kind of tank it, especially when your biggest
I mean, I
movement
don't mean like
effort.
right now. I mean like if
No, I
it's
understand, but your biggest effort this offseason was we're signing a 34-year-old, player in Paul George, where we knew that the first 2 years of the contract were gonna be the most optimal for him getting, like, his age 34, 35 season, not trying to bank on his age 36, 37 season to win something. Um, so I don't think that you can throw it away. I don't think like, it would really have to get to a point for you to throw it away, and I don't necessarily believe it'll get to that point. The way I look at it and the way I was talking to Nick about it, because I was also saying, like, when do you just throw it in the trash? And he was like, "The fact of the matter is you hope they can win today with Paul George against Charlotte, and even if they don't, Embiid's going to be back on Tuesday against the Knicks, and that's a tough spot. They might lose. It's also the front end of a back-to-back, so we know that likely Embiid and George are both not playing both games. But then after that stretch, Embiid's gonna play basically every game from then until, like, through Thanksgiving. It's just the way the schedule's spaced out, like, it's enough time in between games. Um, so Embiid, they win a lot of games Embiid plays in. Like, we know that's just factual. A lot of regular season games that Joel Embiid plays in, they win. It's the fact of the matter, it's just what it is. So, in all likelihood, once you get Joel playing again, they should kinda not say, "Oh, go on a run," but you should be able to bank home some wins, and you might be able to get out of November at, like, 7-11, which just wouldn't be that bad at this point. Like, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Some record of that sort where you're not gonna finish the month and be 2-14 or something egregious. Like, you'll have not a good record, not even a respectable record, but, like, a record that's not, you know, the world is on fire and we need to end end the season now and just tank. And that just because they win games that Embiid plays, because Embiid again is very good, and now we finally don't hear a peep from the trade Embiid crowd because as we see, this team without Embiid is a lottery team like it's kind of always been for the last, again, decade. When he doesn't play, the team is garbage, and we're seeing that yet again.
Yeah, I mean the problem is, I just look at the Sixers bench. It's just like literally dudes that are almost like as old as me or older than me, and to me, it's like Daryl Morey should be fired if this team does like win like 25 games this
Oh,
year.
I mean, they should all be probably fired if this team wins 25 games.
And I think part, and I don't know, like you saw with Embiid suspension
Mhm.
because he shoved Marcus Hayes, and there's a player, Jackson, what's his name, Michael? There's an
Who?
NBA
What?
player that beat his wife, and he just got suspended
Oh, I
last game.
mean, a lot of them. Yeah, yeah. Like, there's a lot of players that have beaten women that are still playing without issues. But
But shoving a report, yeah, it to me, the NBA just, and I hate Josh Harris too, Michael. I think part of the heat. I think the commissioner just hates Josh Harris, but he's just not. He just doesn't have the cojones to just force him to sell the team.
I
Like it
mean, the
was easy.
commissioner, I think, hates the Sixers more than he hates Josh Harris.
No, I think he just hates Josh Harris because Josh Harris was the one that approved the tanking. Josh Harris has owned the Sixers for over a decade now.
Yeah, he punished them with the Colangelos, and I don't know. It's all just whatever with this point, whatever.
So I want to transition into. I want to talk about baseball real quick. So the Chiba Lotte Marines have posted Roki Sasaki, the 24-year-old flamethrower. If he were to be in Major League Baseball, Michael, he might be the hardest throwing pitcher in the league that starts.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that it's very reminiscent pitching wise, obviously, to Otani coming over, where the stuff's there, stuff's totally there. It's just not fully kind of put together, but like it's fine. He's 23 years old. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be fully put together right now. It's not like Yamamoto, who was pretty much like a finished product when he came over.
And
Like,
Imanaga.
yeah, like they came over and they didn't need to really change their game in any sort. Like it just translated, and they were both good and able to be good in big spots. Um, yeah, Shohei Ohtani, there was a learning curve with his pitching that he eventually got there. Obviously, unfortunately, Ohtani had to get, Tommy John surgery because he was throwing too hard, whatever. And you hope that Sasaki, even though he throws really hard, won't need it. But I mean, at this point, it feels like any starter that consistently throws 100 is eventually going to need it, which, like, maybe his adjustment is telling him to tone it down a little bit to like 97, 98, and you can maybe save his arm. But, anyways, he is probably, I think, going to be a very, very good major league pitcher shortly. And, you think about the teams that are involved. Obviously, the Dodgers seemingly are the favorites to land him just because those LA teams tend to get all the Japanese posted players. It's just sort of the way that things have gone as of late. I think other teams are going to try. I think the Yankees are going to try. But just it feels like it's something that the Dodgers might land. And I
Well,
think whatever
what's
team
even
does get him, it's going to be a pretty, like, it's not going to be Yamamoto where he's going to command like $300 million.
no,
Like,
it's
it's going to
you're exactly
be,
correct. So because he's under the age of 25, he will be subject to the same 6-year like pre-free agency
yeah,
like rules. Like this is basically like Paul
it's
Skeens.
going to be
Like,
like Otani's contract.
well, yeah, but I think in this case he's not going to make he's going to make a literal fraction. Like this is basically like signing a player from like the Dominican
Dominican,
Republic.
yeah, international signing, yeah.
So I don't know. like the Dodgers would have an advantage. But then I don't know. I was just thinking about it. Like at some point, why doesn't like the rest of the league I mean, because we know Manfred's like legit, like probably the worst commissioner of the four commissioners in pro sports, and
Yeah.
like they're all pretty terrible, but I think by far he's the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point when you're just like, what? Why are the Dodgers just getting free reign? Like, at what point do you like cap off like how many Japanese players directly from NPB you can just sign? Like like
It's so hard to cap it. It's just like they have the appeal, not even just the money and whatever, but it's players want to stay on the West Coast. They want to be closer to home. Like it's one of those things where it's like I think that idea of being like it's why the Mariners are always involved in these sort of things too, because they're pretty close. And it's just like it's hard to tell guys you can't sign with the Dodgers because we want to cap it. Now you have to go to like St. Louis or something like that, and that just like kind of blows for the player. Not even the team wide, but just like I think that geography does matter. And like, we talk about feeling comfortable, and you're telling me a guy like Sasaki wouldn't feel comfortable going to the Dodgers that has Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani on it. Like, that's pretty damn comfortable to, other players that can help, the language and what all that sort of stuff. It's like it's the same reason the Flyers lug around some Russian players that aren't very good for the sake of Michkov. But, you know, it's it's kind of translates to all sports. When you're trying to get guys from certain cultures, it's nice to have guys of that culture to help them feel more comfortable, so they're not just feeling like everything sucks.
yeah, I'm on MLB trade rumors because they write up really good. Oh, so the Dodgers. Okay, so he is subject to the international spending pool. Sasaki is.
Hmm.
So if the Dodgers would have to get money in order for that international spending pool. Like you can't like they can't do the Fugazi nonsense they did with Otani.
Hmm.
They're going to defer 90% of his contract,
Hmm.
which in of itself is very much like a you know I'm trying to come up with like an equivalent, but like there's only gonna be so much nonsense the Dodgers are just gonna keep doing all this nonsense until someone slaps them on the wrist. You
Hmm.
know? Let me just look it up here. MLB International. Yeah, because he's gonna be treated like a first year player. Oh, huh. How about that, Michael? Dodgers have the most international wait, what?
Money in the pool, yeah, like that's not surprising.
Bonus pool money at 2.5 million.
Yeah.
The second are it's gonna be them and the Orioles and like the Padres.
Yeah. I mean, hmm.
So I don't know. There's also a possibility that the Marines might withhold posting him because the Dodgers paid the Oryx Buffaloes $50 million to release Yamamoto from his contract.
Hmm.
Like, what's the advantage for NPB to let him go over right now?
I think it's the similar advantage of just like put another star in baseball that like,
Not really.
shows a good name and, you know, the NPB and showing a good player. Like, I don't know.
There's like legitimately no advantage.
I mean, that's kind of the reason. Like, it's like, they don't want to send players from the NPB that aren't going to be good and give a bad name. Like, they want to send players that are going to be really good.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know. To me, it's like
Same reason with Michkov that the KHL and whatever, they sit on players that are not good because they don't want, you know, disparaging their league and their country. So they want their players that come over to be
yeah, he's gonna be a Dodger. So apparently,
superstars.
like the reason why he's pushing to be posted is because if he waited 2 years, the Dodgers will most likely not be able to
Well, there
sign
you
him.
go. There you
Which
go.
which I think is the problem. This is like my point
Well, it's
is
hard to like stop a player if the player wants to go there. Like if
so.
he wants to be a
Well, how
Dodger,
would you feel if Travis Hunter were to manipulate rules to go play for the Dallas Cowboys in the NFL, find loopholes?
did like Eli Manning not do this? Like
Well,
it's just like refusing to kind of go. Like the
yeah,
Chargers
but the
draft him and he was like,
Giants
I'm
had
not
to
going to San
trade.
Diego.
The Giants had to trade 2 first-round
The
picks.
difference is you're not getting drafted. He's not being drafted like Travis Hunter. He's a free agent. It's just like any
Well,
free
that's the
agent that
problem, Michael. Why is he not subject to the MLB draft? Is he if he's going to be treated
because it's like the
like
international
Paul Skeens is
signings.
with
Like,
his contract? That is my point.
well, what did Shohei Ohtani's first contract with the Angels was Jesus. He signed a 1-year deal with the Angels for $2 million when he first got over, and then the following year he was in arbitration. So he was subject to it pre-arbitration. Like it was Ohtani was doing the same thing. That's why I said it's gonna be like the Ohtani contract. Shohei Ohtani signed a 1-year, 315,000 dollar contract with the Angels as like a signing bonus. Then his first year after that, 1 year, 545,000 pre-arbitration. Then after that, 1 year, 650,000 pre-arbitration. Then in 2020, 1 year, 700,000 pre-arbitration. Then arbitration extension. They gave him a 2-year, $8.5 million contract. And then he signed the following year a 1-year, $30 million contract with the Angels in 2023, which was his final year of arbitration. And then he was a free agent. And then he signed with the Dodgers. So Sasaki's going to be subject to it's the same thing as Ohtani. Like it's not going to be like Paul Skeens as much like it is, but it's going to be more so. We looked and saw the same thing with Shohei Ohtani. It's not going to be Yamamoto, and it's not going to be Ohtani signing with the Dodgers. But the way Ohtani signed with the Angels and went through that process, that's the same thing. It's the same thing as signing Ronald Acuna out of Venezuela. It's the same thing as signing Juan Soto out of the Dominican.
Yeah, but they
Like you
were like
said, it's like the international signings. Like those players have a say in where they want to go. Like they're just a international pool signed player that you get your contract. You go through the normal stages of MLB arbitration, pre-arbitration stuff. And when it comes to get paid, it'll come to get paid. But it's not like they're not, coming out of Oklahoma, like, getting drafted in the second round. Like they're free agents, international free agents. And, if a player really wants to go to the Dodgers, it's hard to deter that unless you try to offer like a larger signing bonus, but that would have to disparage him from being intrigued with the Dodgers, which at this point feels a little late for that. Like, is he gonna come to the Phillies where they have no one on the team of if I'm thinking, they have no one on the team of Asian descent to go, like, come here, not know a soul, not know anyone to speak to, and you're, like, almost double the time farther from home? Or are you gonna go to the Dodgers where you have some buddies over there and you're closer and the Dodgers are also damn good? Like,
It's to
It's not a hard
me, no,
sell. You're
well,
not
no.
going to the Angels to rot.
I mean, my point is like,
This
if
is
you
just
want
coming
to
out
take,
of Dodger hatred.
well, no, yeah, well, it's because to me, well, to me, it's just like this is where I think baseball is just stupid. Like, here's the thing with this is why I despise Rob Manfred. Rob Manfred wants to like he wants MLB to be like the NFL, where you create parity, where all these different teams can make the playoffs. Michael, like you saw what happened in the American League Central this year, where you
Mhm.
had like what 4 teams make the
Yeah,
wait
4
three
teams
teams
make the playoffs, so the whole AL Central. You had the Guardians won it, you had the Royals and
Tigers.
the Tigers. 3 teams, sorry, 3 teams made it
The
for the
Twins
AL
missed
Central.
out the last day.
Twins missed in the last, like, week or so, yeah.
Like they're like, oh, like they want to push that, and to me, it's just like I'm just telling you, dude, it's gonna be really boring, and I think, and it's just gonna be so stupid.
They won't add a cap ceiling until they add a cap floor. They were fortunate that they were able to get Otani on some, like, deferred contract, which, shady as you will,
Well,
but
the whole Otani thing was shady. Like, we're gonna like the whole thing with
but, like, it still counts,
his
like, against the
interpreter.
luxury tax at 40 million a year, like, 46 million a year. Like, it's gonna hit, it just is gonna hit harder when he's a free agent. When he leaves, when he's 50 years old, it's gonna hit a little harder. But, like, the luxury tax percentage still gets banged every year.
Yeah,
And listen, they spend their money, they're smart about how they go about it. It's it's, like, the beauty of it in a sense where, we can complain about the Dodgers, whatever, but this is the year they finally put it all together. You talk about the bubble COVID year, talk about that, whatever, but this is the first year that their voodoo actually worked. They actually got the World Series out of it. They don't celebrate winning the NL West. They don't celebrate winning a pennant. They don't celebrate going to the NL. They don't celebrate any of those steps as like a organization, not like the players. I mean like the organization, the fans. They don't celebrate that because they know that they have this expectation of World Series every single year. They finally got one for the first time legitimately since like the 80s. We could complain about it all we want. We can also complain about the Yankees doing the same crap. They haven't won anything in 15 years.
mm.
They've only made it to um, one World Series since as well. So like they exist, but like look at what we had the last year. We had the Rangers who spent a lot of money, but aren't necessarily some notorious, break the bank team, even though they did kind of start this whole thing with A-Rod. But the Rangers and then the Diamondbacks, they don't pay a soul any of these sort of massive contracts. You look at the Phillies, they pay the big contracts, but they were kind of off a win. The Astros, they pay people, but it's not like the same way the Phillies pay people or the, you know, Dodgers, whatever. It's the Braves, they're the same thing. They're able to they have some voodoo who they pay and they are able to save money on their great players. And then you had the bubble, but then before the bubble was the Nationals. Nationals weren't paying anybody a ton, paying Scherzer, and that was about it. But like Turner was cheap, Rendon was cheap, Soto was cheap. Those are Howie Kendrick, all those guys.
Yeah, but I think my point is like
The randomness that is baseball is what saves them from being super saturated. Like, it's not like the NBA where there's virtually no randomness outside of injuries. Like, the only reason the Warriors didn't win every single year of the Kevin Durant era was because Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant both tore something in their legs and missed the entire NBA finals. But besides that, when those guys were healthy, they were rolling through everybody like it wasn't even a thought. That's just the nature of basketball, that there's not really like a luck window. It's why you don't see 8 seeds beat 1 seeds all that much, but you see it a lot more in hockey because hockey, anything can happen. But basketball, the difference between the 1 and the 8 seed is usually big enough in skill where it's like the 1 seed is just gonna make more shots. It's gonna come down to making shots. There's not really it's hard to get 4 straight games of luck for a bad basketball team to just keep making shots that they have no business consistently being good at. Baseball is such a it's a blessing and a curse how ass backwards random that ridiculous sport can be, where literally see game 1 of the NLDS, the Phillies Mets, your ace goes 7 scoreless, dominates the entire game. Your bullpen, who the 2 guys that were literally all-stars, just totally and utterly collapsed under no bearings. It's like, well, Jesus Christ, could we have expected that? No, no one expected that. That shocked everybody to their core. And then they end up getting blown out. And it's like, what just happened? Like, it's so,
So you think if the
defensive
Dodgers sign Roki
miscues.
Sasaki and Juan Soto, it's just going to be like,
I mean, I
oh,
don't think they're gonna sign both. If they do, like, that would really blow, but at the same time, if they're the team that's forking over all the money to do it, they're forking over all the money to do it. But it's, we could very well see the Dodgers. Who's to say
Dodgers
Mookie
have
Betts
announced
isn't
that
gonna
Mookie
have
Betts is
a
going to be moving to second base.
yeah, he's gonna be playing
Season.
the infield, this
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
So yeah,
We'll see.
yeah, I guarantee you, if they sign Juan Soto, you're gonna be like,
Listen, I hope they
this is a
don't.
broken system. This needs to change.
Listen,
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't go there. I think there's a shot that the Dodgers offer a nice lucrative contract, but he stated he doesn't wanna be on the West Coast. He prefers the East Coast. So
Okay.
he'll probably cater
So
for
let's
any favor.
all right. So let's just talk about the Flyers, and we'll do football for the rest of the show.
Mhm.
Yeah. So as you brought it up, Matvey Michkov, you mentioned his name a couple times. John Tortorella did his, typical old man yells at cloud routine. He benched Matvey Michkov earlier this week, and he sat him again yesterday. They won the first game he was benched, and
They got 3 points. They won in a shootout against Tampa, and then they lost in a shootout against Florida.
which if Michkov would have been very helpful if you had him in a 3-on-3 / shootout scenario, but hey, what the hell do I know, Michael?
Yeah, like, it's listen, there was always gonna be an opportunity for him to sit at least 1 game, and, like, it shouldn't have been the end of the world that way, like, it just, "Oh, let him watch the game from upstairs, let him, you know, reset and give the kid a break," all that sort of stuff. But now that it's become 2 games, it's just like, okay, it's not this, it's just the normal Torts thing, like, he treats him like he treated Morgan Frost, treats him like he treated Joel Farabee, treats him like
Bobby Brink.
he treated Bobby Brink, treats him like he treated, you know, any young player that the Flyers have had that has had promise over the last, like, 3 years, however long he's been here, they've all been subject to getting benched for multiple games because of whatever reason, and to call it like we're seeing it, it's at this point, we're seeing that it's not totally working. Like, it might work in, like, a short-term thing, like, maybe Michkov comes back and he looks really good for a few weeks, and maybe Michkov is not the best example because he's probably different. He's better than all of those guys that we just named. But maybe you see Morgan Frost a few years back get benched for 2 games, come back and look good for a week, but then it just kind of fizzles out again. It's like we can say what we want, maybe the players aren't gonna, but it's just one of those things that he really seems to shock the core out of the confidence of the young players, you know? I'll keep bringing up the Jamie Drysdale example that you look at his Duck highlights when he was in Anaheim, it's just a lot of skating with purpose and confidence and moving the puck as a right-handed defenseman through the neutral zone into the offensive zone, creating plays, getting things set up, and you don't really see Drysdale show off his skating other than along the blue line in the offensive zone when they're already set up, and it's usually just on the power play. But it's like there's examples of him getting the puck in the defensive zone, maybe having just an area to go progress, and then kind of deferring it to the other defensemen and letting them go move it up. And it's like it looks like he's playing scared. Like he looks like he's playing fearing to turn it over and fearing to make a mistake. And like that's not what I want out of my coach. You can say what you want about having an old school coach and the benefits or whatever, and the whole benefits of having John Tortorella at the helm was supposed to be to get these young players' heads screwed on straight, to get the most out of them effort-wise and defensive-wise, and have them in a position ready to compete by the time he's, like, done being a coach, and they just have those intangibles that he could give off to them to make everything better and happy day. And I'm just not seeing any of that. Like, I'm seeing a bunch of young players not living up to the potential we hope them to be. I'm seeing a bunch of young players kind of be stuck in the mud, stuck at a level that's not good enough to be a championship contender. And now I'm seeing the most skilled flyer since Giroux, and before that, the most skilled flyer I've probably seen in my lifetime with Matvei Michkov, the just raw skill and talent that someone has. And one rookie coming off rookie of the month, 9 points in 11 games in his first NHL month as a player. And because he hasn't been like excellent on 5v5, he's getting benched for 2 games straight. And like the teams looked better, and I don't know. It's just very, very frustrating that he's just going to treat him the same way as all the other guys, when all he did all offseason was basically preach that it was going to be different. What did Tortorella say about Michkov all offseason? This is a level of skill that we've never had. I understand that there's going to be growing pains or whatever, but we're not going to like deter that from him. We're not going to, he's going to make those mistakes, and it's good because I want him to make skillful mistakes because he's trying to make something happen. Like encouraging all this stuff, encouraging all of it, to then just kind of be like, "Oh, he's not playing good enough. He's sitting for a couple games." It's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know. He just needs to play, and this team still doesn't employ a Russian interpreter, which is lunacy. So God knows if he's even understanding well enough why he's being sat for these last 2 games.
Can I just say something about this whole language barrier thing you keep bringing up, Michael?
Yeah.
Can I bring something up here? This may sound elitist of me to say this, but if you're gonna spend 8 months out of the year in a league that's going to give you generational wealth, like, shouldn't, like, I understand him needing an interpreter, but wouldn't it behoove him to learn English so he can
I mean,
communicate
he's
with all of
learning
his
it.
teammates?
He's 19. Like, John, if I dragged you and dropped you into Russia, like, tomorrow, are
He
you
was
gonna need it would be
drafted in the
nice.
NHL over. Look, Michael.
And
When
they
you go
said,
to
and the
school,
Flyers said that
Michael, when you go
his
to
English.
school internationally, like if you went to school in like Russia, France, uh, I'm making sure not to say Great Britain,
Yeah,
but English is the language they all learn besides their native tongue. And I'm
sure.
just saying, it's like it's like if you're playing, it's like sort of like in baseball where like there's guys that just refuse to learn English, and it's like, but like you kind of need to know how to do it because like if you played like if like it just, I'm just saying it's like
Listen, he was drafted and came over in a year. So if he had, like, a
Michael.
year to
Michael,
really
they
hype up and
knew
learn
when he
English,
was like Michael when he was 12 years old.
they said that his
They
English has
knew
gotten
he was gonna
better.
go play in the NHL. Like you just know that.
I don't know, man. Like, do you
Like
think his
they know that.
family
I'm
knows
just
how to speak
saying.
English well?
I'm
Like,
literally just saying. It's not like it's not. Like, it's Michael. It's
I
not
think
like
it's embarrassing though that a team doesn't employ your best player on your team is Russian and you don't have
does
and
he
he's
have
a
his own
kid.
interpreter?
No, they don't have an interpreter for him. Like, that's on the team. I'm sorry. Hire a team interpreter. That's embarrassing. It's very, very low level shit right there. Could you imagine the Phillies didn't have Diego? My God, we'd be screwed. Like, that's lunacy. He shouldn't have to get his own. He's 19 years old. That he's happy his dad was not alive. He's happy his mom and his brother are alive in Voorhees. And it's like we're banking on the kid. Like, I don't know. Like, they're keeping these players here, only because they really speak Russian. We look at Igor Zamula, who blows. We look at Ivan Fedotov, who's not good. They're only here just to make the kid more comfortable. And like you see it, they all love him or whatever, and they're trying to help him, but you can only help so much. Like God forbid they had someone that actually spoke the language in the organization, but they don't. And like that just kind of I don't know. It all speaks to like the laziness of this Flyers organization that they've exuded for my entire lifetime and most of your lifetime as well.
I actually just this. They should have an interpreter. Like that's not
Yeah,
what I'm
could you
arguing.
imagine the Phillies didn't have Diego? We'd be losing our minds.
But like, why are you paying these Russian players to be interpreters? Would it be cheaper just to flat out hire an interpreter?
You're
Like,
telling me.
like Michael, if I knew that like being an interpreter would be like, I would pay $1 million if you're on a sports team. Like, wouldn't you just be like, wouldn't you
Listen,
take
if you could
rent?
do it, you could do it. Yeah, you gotta know.
Like, just
But
yeah, I don't.
it's
Do you
it's
think the Flyers
frustrating.
don't? I mean, like, what do you think? Like, who makes that decision? Like, I don't.
That's the CFO or whatever. Like that's the president of like business operations. That's not even like a hockey ops thing. Like that's like a business side of thing.
I don't see how the Flyers are gonna go out of
I don't know.
business
Like you think like
paying
Keith
an
Jones or
interpreter.
whatever could say, "Hey, like maybe let's get someone here for him." I don't know. It's not like they speak French from Canada, but like 90% of the team is Canadian, so it's fine.
All right, let's just transition. I couldn't think of a way of a pun or some witty
Yeah,
something
no.
to be like how to transition into. So like, we're gonna do the picks, but let's just talk about Thursday night football. And I mean, do you feel like ranting about how Sirianni almost cost him that game against the Jags, or do you want to go and talk about that when we talk about the Eagles? I feel like we should separate them because I have thoughts on the Eagles Cowboys game as well.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
mean,
talk about during when we do that pick, but
yeah. I mean, so this like Thursday night was highly entertaining. Again, the Bengals Ravens have been putting together some classics for us. Um, I don't know, like everything that kind of happened that was like expected. Lamar was great, Burrow was great, Chase was great. Like it was just, stars showed up. Um, both those teams' weaknesses are obviously their defense. The Bengals being one of the worst in football, and the Ravens secondary being very, very weak. So they were just kind of getting torched all day. But yeah, listen, I can't fault the Bengals for trying to go for two in the win. We had just seen it on Monday night. The Buccaneers not do that and then just kind of slowly watch the Chiefs go in overtime. Like it's the same. Well, it would have been the same result. Like you're banking on a coin flip to have a chance that if you don't win the coin flip, you might as well tell Joe Burrow to go back to the locker room and go get changed and get ready for your interviews. So you gave your shot. Refs kind of screwed the Bengals throughout the game.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with the decision to go for the win because if the Ravens won the toss, then
Game's
game's
over. And it's
over.
just like I would have, I guess, would have liked that you try to really I almost forced the ball to Jamar Chase. And the play wasn't even designed to look that way. You had two guys that were holding Gesicki, like should have been a penalty that wasn't called. And then you're trying to throw it to whatever 87's name is that I'm blanking on. And like Jamar Chase is on the complete other side of the
What,
field.
Yoshavas?
No, it wasn't Yoshivas. It was whoever the tight end is.
Oh, not Eric All, the
Yeah,
other.
the other one. I can't think of
Yeah.
his name. He caught a touchdown actually, but yeah, like trying to go to him, and it's just it's just tough. Tough loss for Cincinnati for sure. But they're clawing their way through a lost season, where all the things that like you believe in for your team that are good and are good, like you don't have to change. Like Burrow's good. It would behoove them to keep T. Higgins. He's very important, and Gesicki's found a nice little role there. Obviously, Chase is incredible. Uh, you don't need a necessarily great running back in the backfield. Just kind of rock your duo of Chase Brown, and if it's Zach Moss who gets healthy, whatever, all that sort of stuff. But you gotta make your improvements on the defense. Like the Bengals, that team, those teams in 2021 and stuff, they went as far as their defense took them. Their defense really did most of the legwork, and then the Bengals offense would just have to go on a drive or two just to finish the game off. And they kind of ignored that, letting guys like DJ Reader walk, letting guys like Jesse Bates leave. And you're just seeing that defense slowly dissipate into garbage, and it's been garbage all season. You know, the Eagles exposed it as garbage. The Ravens continue to show it as garbage. You know, the Raiders were even able to move the ball, score. Like it's a bad defense, very very bad.
Well, I
And
got bad news for the. I have bad news for the Bengals when it comes to free agency. This is an extremely weak free agent class, and the Bengals may have the most desired free agent on their team currently in T. Higgins.
mm, yeah,
Which,
a
yeah,
lot of teams are going to be in on T Higgins, and guess what? Um, it's because the Bengals screwed around, didn't want to give him a long-term contract, couldn't figure it out, and now there's a lot of teams that would love to have T. Higgins on their team. They're going to pay top dollar. You look at the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Steelers, um, the Ravens. If things don't work out with this little
the
core,
Cowboys
they got.
actually don't have the cap room to sign.
Well,
T.
that doesn't surprise me, but maybe a team like that does have the cap room that maybe wants to get their rookie quarterbacks a nice little weapon. The New England Patriots could be all over trying to get T. Higgins, and that would make
Yeah, T.
sense.
Higgins is going to have a very large market, and even though this
Yeah,
draft's also going to be loaded at wide receiver, I mean, if you're a
T.
team
Higgins
that,
is a proven talent that as
I
long as
mean,
he stays healthy.
if you look at what the Eagles did to fix their wide receiver problems after after 2020 by drafting Devontae Smith and then trading for AJ Brown, it's not that hard to if you know what you're doing to just get wide receivers. Like it's really not
No, and
rocket
you're seeing the
science.
Eagles, they're paying everybody, and it's not really hamstringing their cap all that much because they're just, it's Howie's master at the math. So.
I could see the Jags signing T. Higgins and then it just being a disaster because of the Jags. But
Yeah, I mean, the
because of
Jags
that
should not
because
go
of the
after T.
no
Higgins.
state income tax,
The Jags should not go after T. Higgins. They should really kind of look
to
within.
pair with Brian Thomas.
Listen, that'd be good, but I think that other teams would be, I don't know.
More,
Pittsburgh's like the way
you
to
you
go.
are more fun to watch than what's currently going on.
That is true. I
Uh,
do not need
Real
T.
quick
Higgins to
before we
waste
go into
away.
the picks, speaking of the Jags, we just talked about them. So
Currently 10-0 Panthers, by the way,
I
in
saw
the
that.
second quarter.
We didn't pick
Nice.
them when they scored, by the way. I just want to mention that to
No,
everybody.
listen, we got our
Check the
picks off in
timestamp.
time. Check the timestamp. It was 9:28.
So are they just so if the Panthers hold on, are we just going to leave Dable and
I find
Kane
it
and
like maybe it's
Germany?
not fair. Maybe I'm giving too long of a leash, but I don't know, man. If I were a Giants fan, I would be screaming to like get Daniel Jones so far off this team any way you can, and we need to restart. And I really like I don't view Brian Dable like I viewed Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus. I look at how the Bears disaster is going, where they're gonna have a whole new coaching staff next year. It's like I really think that Brian Dable is capable and is good, and it's just like he is aware of how awful the quarterback is that he kind of handicaps himself. Where it's like he'll call plays, and it's like he's looking like, what do you want me to do with this guy? And it's such a nightmare with situation having Daniel Jones at your quarterback. It really just holds everything back.
I want to see before we you want so. Do you have anything about the Eagles Jags you want to vent about, Michael? I know it sounds like
Um,
it's like asking
like
a man start like dying of thirst in the desert if he wants a glass of water.
yeah, like it's just what's so frustrating. I think is that the game is obviously going great. Things were going well. The refs really did a number to make this one close. Like that whole fumble It was a
Oh,
straight up just
because
gifted.
98% of the money was on the Eagles covering that.
Yeah,
The
like, it just totally gifted the Jags 8 points, which, again, you take away those 8 points, game's not as close, people aren't as pissed. But the problem is that I stand by what I believe in, and when I look at the decision makings that Nick Sirianni made against the Jags, there are 2 that I really, really grotesquely disagree with. I think anytime that you have an opportunity to get an two-point conversion from the 1-yard line, I'm in full support of the Eagles going for it every time, unless you're just trying to kick the point to take the lead to win the game. Like, I am in pretty large support of the Eagles trying to tush push every time that they get the ball at the 1 to go for 2. Like, I'm down for that. I agree with that. I do truly believe they got the first one. Obviously, the second one they did not get, and maybe I'm a little more hesitant to take the point off the board, like, the kick goes through and then, you try to go for it. Like, maybe I'm a little more not okay with that, but point being, I still do think they got the first one. The 4th and 3 that they did not get, that A.J. Brown was kinda open, but Hurts, waited for the window to open up a little more, and by that time, the corner was able to close. Maybe the throw was not out in front as much as it should have been, and it was incomplete. They didn't convert on the 4th and 3. I don't hate that decision. You look at the way the game was going, it was 10-0 Eagles. They were The Jags looked dead in the water. Immediately after that, was the I'm pretty sure immediately after that was just 3 and out. So it's not like it gave the Jags really any momentum. You just didn't take the points, and that's been a whole big problem. I don't hate the idea of 4th and 3. I think there's a deeper rooted issue with this Eagles offense that their short passing game is not as good as kind of anything else that they do. They run the ball exceptionally. The quarterback runs the ball exceptionally. They have very good deep ball stuff because the receivers and the quarterback excel at it. They've gotten a lot better at the intermediate passes in that like 8 to 12-yard range ish, like those dig routes, the curls, the deep curls, those sort of routes, they do well with those sort of things. What I think they struggle with is the short passes. They don't have the hit the tight end who turns around and falls over for 6 yards. They don't have, other than an AJ Brown slant route that gets open, it's not they're not great at manufacturing open receivers underneath. And I think when you're trying to run 2-point conversion plays and 4th and shorts that are not short enough to push, I think that's why they struggle so much because I don't love the way they run their short passing game, and it's not great. Regardless, that's a whole nother issue. The 2 decisions that Sirianni made that I absolutely hated and cannot defend was the other 4th and inches, 4th and 1, that they did not decide to push it and tried to run the same sprint out play that was the Saquon Barkley drop against Atlanta, that they tried to go back to it, and the Jags were all over it, and nothing was open, and Jalen just kind of floated it and hoped, and it just landed incomplete. And Sirianni admitting that them getting stuffed twice on the tush push on the goal line deterred him from running it. I don't care how many times you can't get deterred from running that play. That's a play that's got like a 90% success rate. You need to kind of just every time you have the opportunity to do it, I think you need to do it. And if you really do feel scared and
Well,
don't want to do
actually,
it
that the
again,
push only has a 78% success rate this season now.
I mean,
It's gone
78%,
down.
80% of the time is pretty good. You already failed twice. So,
But
like,
I think the issue the Eagles have right now with the tush push is I have actually 2 reasons. I think recently it's not working as well because Dallas Goddard was one of the pushers, and he's a real
he's good at it.
obviously an extremely strong individual. And listen, I think Grant Calcaterra is it okay backup tight end. He's not.
Can't block.
He's probably one of the weakest tight ends in pro football.
Yeah, and you look at one of them, like one of them was after the Fred Johnson got his knees taken out for a play. So it was actually Jack Driscoll in there. And another one, Barkley, Barkley was already in the locker room because they had scored the touchdown. He thought they kicked the extra point. Barkley wasn't even on the field. He kind of went in for halftime already, so he wasn't out there to push. That's a huge like force back there to help push it. So regardless, I think if you have a 4th and 1, I still think you should probably run the tush push every single time. And if you're not going to, you're allowed to run the ball on like 4th and 3 or less, like a normal, just give it to Saquon, run the ball. And it's something it seems like they sort of kind of forgot. Regardless, okay, my one issue was that he didn't run the tush push and he got bullied out of it. He got scared from doing it. My other biggest issue was at the end of the game where it was like you were deciding to try to kick the field goal at the end of the game to go up what would have been 8 points. And it's like it was like third kick of the day. He kicked a short field goal. He kicked one extra point, and you were trying to have him kick what was it, a 56-yarder or something like that. Not to put the game on ice, but to just go up 8 points. Like, it wasn't far from a guarantee that, the game was over if he made that. You just kind of survived losing in regulation if that had happened. It was 4th and 4. I think you should, like, either punt it or go for it. Like, I don't think kicking the field goal is remotely the smart decision there. I think you either punt it and you try to pin them and you're like, "All right, they gotta go the length of the field and we're up 5 and you just gotta play it." Or it's like, "I'm going for it and I'm going to get it and I'm gonna get the win." Whereas you're kicking the field goal, you're just the reward is you get up 8 and you're like, "Okay, we don't lose in regulation, guys. That's the reward." And the risk is we're giving them the ball at midfield and we didn't even the risk that we took was not ending the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, 4th and 4, you don't get it. The ball's at the line of scrimmage. So, 1, it's actually 7 yards further than where it would be if you kick it because, the snap kick is 7 yards from where you place the ball. So, it's a 7-yard difference, and the success on the field goal puts you up 8. The success on going for it ends the game. I'm rather taking that risk that ends the game as opposed to just
Well, also on that drive,
giving
you
them the
had
ball back.
Saquon not go for a first down.
It was on that 3rd down. He decided to slide to stay in bounds, but it was like,
Just get the first down.
just get the first down. Like, he for as amazing as a player as he is, he has some, like, kinda head-scratching stupid moments. Like, it happened earlier in that Jags game where he ran out of bounds before the yard marker, and that led to the 4th and 1 that they didn't tush push and failed to convert. It's like, dude, you coulda got the first down there as well. He did it last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever against the Giants, maybe, I forget, where he ran out of bounds before getting the first down, and it kinda screwed things up a little bit.
Which is bizarre because he's
So
second in the
smart, but
NFL in yards after
sometimes
contact behind obviously Derrick Henry.
right, but
It's not like
it's just
he's
like
afraid of contact. It's like
no, he just like it's just like the brain sometimes I think falters in these sort of spots, and hopefully it's not too bad. But again, it was like it's not like you slid like an inch short of the first down or anything. Like you slid like 4 yards short. It was like, dude, like you absolutely could have got close. And I don't care if you backflip out of bounds as long as you get the first down. It doesn't matter. Who cares? If you get the first down, the game's over. You don't need to slide to kill their timeouts, dude. Like
that's you know what that is? That's coaching. Like
it's something. I
that's
don't know.
coaching because I think that's coaching. Now, like, is that just Sirianni or is it also Kellen Moore? Because Kellen Moore, I mean, you saw what happened in Kellen Moore's when the Cowboys played the Niners. Dak Prescott slid in bounds,
Right.
and in that playoff game, like I don't know, but it's also like, how can you collectively be so stupid? Where this is literally like football 101, where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Like that was
I
just
don't.
it was just a little insane to me that I was like, why'd you go down so soon? You could have ended the game. And yeah, so regardless, I think Sirianni definitely had a handful of misplays yet again.
Well, I
But
think this is the most misfires he's had in one game
the
this
Saints
season.
game was pretty bad.
I think it was even worse than the Saints game because in the Saints game, like Jalen made some like really boneheaded
That
decisions
cost them
where like
anyways. Yeah, I
Jalen
guess.
like has not
Yeah.
made did not really make any of those decisions. If any, like this is kind of like my hot take. I think Jalen Hurts right now is sort of having like the midseason like elevation that Lamar had last year. Where if you like where
yeah.
if you're watching him play, everything he does is helping. He's not doing anything where you're like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You know? Like
No, he had a
it's
great October, and a very good Jags game yet again. He's been really good. He's been very, very good.
and look, this is a big game for him today. Even the Cowboys are banged up. He's historically this is the worst place for him to play. Never won at AT&T as a pro.
Yeah, I
I'm
was gonna
pretty
say,
sure he's won a game there in college.
yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get into these picks.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders just got carted off the field, which is a shame.
Yeah, by the
But
way, I checked the box score for last I checked for Bryce Young. Bryce Young is 7 of 10 for 78 yards and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard 10 carries, 82 yards.
oh wow. All right.
Yeah.
So let's kick off the rest of these picks. We have the Bills and the Colts in Indy. The Colts are 4.5-point home dogs. It will be Flacco again. You know, all the AR truthers, and I guess I sort of probably fall closer to that. Felt vindicated on Sunday night where you put in Joe Flacco. Like a lot of the guys that I've seen, like Theo, for example, defending Anthony Richardson, they've shown basically how the offense with and without Richardson, like with Flacco as the not, is that it's still like not good. Like they're still just a poorly offense. The way they run their offense isn't great. And then when you have someone like Flacco in there, maybe the consistency on your completions are better, but you take away such a big play risk and like the run risk that the Colts run shotgun runs and you have ends crashing so heavily because there's no threat for Joe Flacco to keep it and go run. So there's no worry. Whereas, even if Richardson's not playing well, that threat's always going to exist and it'll help open up the run game. So if Flacco does anything that is a direct negative impact of him being in there, he hampers their running game significantly. Both from the running backs and the quarterback perspective. I'm taking the Bills -4.5. I think the Colts are just, there's nothing that's moving me with them. They were sort of in the Vikings game, but not really. Like it felt like they were kind of getting dominated. And the Bills coming off what was like a miraculous victory against the Dolphins. It was kind of crazy. Last second long field goal. Usually that's a bad recipe for the following week. And perhaps it's one of those games that the Colts might just inexplicably win. But I don't know. Feels like the Bills at this point, knock on wood, you can almost say that they have the division locked up just from how bad everyone else has been in that division. That at this point, I think they want to bank home as many wins as they can. I don't necessarily think they'll get the bye, but to be able to get a 2 seed potentially, the way that the Ravens sometimes loses some bad teams, it would be beneficial for them.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Bills to cover the 4.5
Yeah.
as well on the road. I just think that this Colts team has a lot of injuries, Michael. They're really banged up.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, with Josh Allen, definitely an MVP candidate. Now, the reason why I think some people are taking the Colts is speaking of premier AFC teams, the Bills next week host their in-conference rival, Kansas City Chiefs. So, is this game what we're gonna? Oh God, I feel like this is almost a myth now, Michael. Is this a trap game for the Bills? Is it a trap game? Like on paper,
Like
yes.
you talk about what a trap game is, and it's like when the line is too low, laying the trap. Is 4.5 points too low of a line
I mean, I
for
don't
a
know, bro.
road
This
favorite?
Colts. I mean, dude, this Colts. I mean, no Michael Pittman.
They're 7-2 against the spread, like they cover spreads. I'm
Have we?
taking Buffalo though. So
Yeah, I don't. This game. I don't like. I don't really like this game at all, bro. At
next
all.
game we have is the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence out. It will be Mac
Trevor
Jones.
Lawrence might now be out for the season with an AC joint sprain.
Yeah, and listen, if I'm the Jags, you just handed him a huge contract. There is no reason for him to play not 100% at all. There is It's now more than ever where you'll let the season die off and finish with Mac Jones playing quarterback. It would not be a better time than to clean the entire place out. And that's Doug, that's Press Taylor, that's everybody's got to go. And you're getting a whole new coaching staff. You're letting the quarterback just kind of sit and rehab and do whatever you got to do.
Do you think this is a dark horse team for Ben Johnson to coach because they have a lot of the pieces that he could kind of run his offense? I mean, they have two
I
good
think that
running back. I mean, they have two
no,
running backs.
that I understand. I think where I like Adam Schefter made it sound like he's going to be extremely picky. I just got a text, by the way, from Nick saying Daniel Jones, and then in all caps, stinks. So
I mean,
take with that what you will.
uh,
So
I mean, well,
regardless,
thanks.
Adam Schefter, I think it was on ESPN, basically saying Ben Johnson is going to be very, very picky on where he goes if he leaves. Um, he's like he's got a great gig in Detroit that he's not like dying to run away from. That he made it sound like he's only leaving for the perfect situations, and like to me that read like the Eagles. That read like I don't know like
But do you want to coach Dallas right now?
no, like Adam Schefter straight up said, like Dallas is not a desirable location for him to want to run and go to at this point. And
The only
like
reason the reason why I throw Jacksonville is
it fits. I totally agree with you. Yeah, but I think the issue is that the offensive line is so bad that even if they do go get someone like T. Higgins, where it's like, okay, now you're really sort of building the Lions here. You got Evan Ingram, you got Brian Thomas, you got T. Higgins, you got ETN and Tank Bigsby, you got Lawrence, but their offensive line's so garbage that it's like you look at the way Lions run long developing plays. They really lean on the run game. You won't be able to lean on the run game because the O line's so bad. Your
well,
creative pass plays,
I'm
you'd have to
pulling
go
up
pay.
the you know two of the top five available free agents according to Pro Football Focus are Trey Smith of the Chiefs, guard,
Mm.
and this guy. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on this guy are. Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens. I feel like he's like very up and
Good player,
down,
it's always hurt. Like it's
but
just,
like he's still gonna be way better than probably what they already have on the roster. So
it'll be interesting. But
you know, we'll
back to
see.
this
But
game.
yeah, back to
But
this game. Yeah, I mean, look, dude. The Vikings, they've kind of had a little bit of a rough go of it the last few weeks. Listen, dude, I think they're going to smoke this team. That's just kind of my general.
I agree. I think
They're going to
that
smoke them.
Brian Flores is gonna put Mac Jones in hell and just totally like they're what are they 7-point favorites on the road? Yeah, I'm taking Minnesota -7. I think their offense. Look, we know this Jags defense stinks as well. It's not just the offense is bad and dysfunctional, but the defense is trash. So Jefferson should have a pretty special. It's like one of those like 8 catches in the first half kind of games for him. Yeah, John's reacting. I sent him a Daniel Jones 3rd-and-1 flea flicker that was wide open, and Jones just
I
really
hate
didn't
the Giants, and that just made me
throw the
mad.
ball. Yeah.
How bad. Anyway, yeah, I
Next
mean,
game.
feels like I don't know, man. I feel like I was trying to come up with like 2 touchdown parlays. I really like Aaron Jones getting 2 touchdowns today.
It's not a bad play. Next game we have is the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road dogs against the Washington Commanders. Probably the Probably the game of the week in the 1 o'clock hour. After a quick glance through, it's absolutely the game of the week in the 1 o'clock hour. The Commanders are
This
2-point
just
favorites.
screams like this is one of Pittsburgh's 7 losses, Michael. I'm just being honest with you.
Really? Like, oh man, like the Commanders feels like they just have to lose, right? And you look at their who they've beaten,
You mean
and
to tell me
granted,
you're going to be nervous if they lose this game to the Steelers and then they beat us? Like, wouldn't you like want them to win this game and then overlook the Eagles?
you know, that's a very common thing to say. You say it, my dad says it all the time. He always is so big on, "Oh, does it matter?" Like, and ultimately, I think sometimes it doesn't matter as much. The Commanders, I think, are aware, whether they win or lose today, that they need to win Thursday against the Eagles if they wanna feel good about the division, because even if they win today, they're 8-2, and then let's say they go ahead and they lose to the Eagles. Now both teams have what, no, the Eagles only have 2 losses. Commanders now have 3 losses, and they just lost the head-to-head. Like, that game matters a ton, whether they win or lose today. I think it has no bearing on Thursday. Um, the Commanders, like, they got hammered by Tampa. They beat the Giants, but probably should have lost. They won in
Like,
the
both times.
crazy Bengal game. Yes, exactly, both times the Giants. Hammered the Cardinals, hammered the Browns, lose to the Rams. They still haven't beaten anybody good yet, and I think that this is a spot where the Steelers defense can give them problems and have a competent enough offense to put up more points than the Bears did. You kinda look at how the Bears defense was able to stagnate this Commander offense, and how the Bears offense just couldn't get out of their own way and ultimately led to the Hail Mary demise. I think that the Steelers could play a similar kind of game, but they'll be able to, instead of it being a 13-12 game, it would instead be like a 21-12 game, and the Steelers are just gonna win that way, like that sort of thing. So, and this by the way, the Commanders also don't have their kicker today. Austin Seibert is out with a hip injury.
Mm.
So, be interesting to see how that plays a factor into it. I'm gonna take Pittsburgh +2 on the road. I kinda think they win.
I'm going to take Pittsburgh as well. Michael, this is the thing that as we're kind of like going through like, I don't know, futures, right?
Yeah.
Comeback player of the year, right?
Uh,
If
it's gonna
Russ,
be
if Russ is like, looks
Kirko.
anything, if Russ looks like anything like Seattle Russ, which he's looking better than he
Well, didn't
did.
they designate it that award's now for injuries? Like, didn't they say, like, "Okay, we're making it an injury rule now"?
Came back from his pride being injured
That's what
by
I'm saying, like, it's
Peyton.
like, if we're looking at not injuries, it's like, shouldn't, like, Darnold kinda be the favorite, you know? He came back from being ass, like, really bad. That's why I think there should be a most improved NFL award, but that's
I
neither
think
here nor there.
because this is a comeback because like, dude, Russ has been irrelevant for like 4 years.
Like, Kirk's gonna win the award.
Oh, it's true.
Tore his Achilles, he's gonna go win the division, like, that's pretty free for him.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
it's free money.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Here's the thing with the Steelers to their defense. I mean, here's the thing with the Commanders too. Michael is like, obviously they're picking up Lattimore. Like his
Mhm.
Lattimore,
He's not playing today, if that.
like, do you think that do you think this Commanders team, um, under Dan Quinn, that they're just Dan Quinning right now? Like, remember his first year with the Falcons? They were
Dan
like,
Quinn winning? Sorry.
what?
Quinn.
He was like 5-0 to start his Falcons career, and then
Yeah,
they went 7-9.
right, I do remember. That was in, like, 2016, or no,
2016.
2015. 15.
Oh,
Yes.
2015, yes.
Yes, yes. Um, or 14. Could have been 14. Don't remember. Regardless. Maybe, but I think the Commanders are clearly they're trying to maximize this. They know that what did they finish last year? 4th, right? They
Mm.
finished last. So they're playing a last place schedule. And listen, you look at teams that win the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl or whatever, if you're not like a juggernaut every year like the Niners or Kansas City, those one-off teams that get in there tend to come off fourth place schedules. You look at the Bengals in 2021. You look at the Eagles in 2017. Like you play the fourth place schedule when you actually put together a good team, and that's because of a drafted quarterback. That could be whatever, multitude of things. You bank home these wins. You have a really nice regular season, and things just got to fall your way to go on a playoff run. The Commanders are well aware of what their weaknesses are, and like one of them being majorly the secondary. Going to go get Marshawn Lattimore, which by the way is actually, depending on what you think of Marshawn Lattimore, I think this is a really, really nice move because his contract, like whoever's trading for him this year, has is only paying him 600. Like the Commanders are only paying him $600,000 this year. Like the rest of this year is very, very cheap. They're not ballooning over the cap this season. Next year it kicks in, but there is a potential out. There's a little like buyout that you could have, or maybe a restructure of said contract. But you're making this trade, you're not paying him anything for the rest of this year, and then you have him under contract for 2 more years. And it's like, listen, if you're the Commanders, that's a nice little move here. You get 2.5 years out of Lattimore, you see how things go. They're in their mind, they're hoping that they're like a Super Bowl contender for the next 2.5 years at this point. So I think the move makes a lot of sense on their part. They're trying to shore up what they view as some of their weaknesses, especially I'm, you know, despite AJ Brown and whatever, they've had their success cooking Lattimore. Um, it's very clear and obvious that uh, there's a reason they made obviously the trade deadline, but they were sure to get this in before the Eagles game. Like they were clearly making calls for corners before the Eagle game.
Yeah, and I think too. I thought what's annoying is that Adam Schefter runs public relations for the Washington Commanders. So when he let that tweet, everyone wants to play for the Commanders. I'm like,
Yeah.
you mean to tell me if like a team's trying to trade for you, it's either the Chiefs or the Commanders, you're going to be like, oh my God, I love Jaden Daniels. I want to go play for him. Like over like the Chiefs. Like that just seems like pure like fiction. Fiction.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You're just making stuff up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
With that being said, I'm taking the Steelers as well. All right. Next game.
Okay. Next game we have is the Atlanta Falcons against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans.
If Carr loses this game, he has a loss against all 32 teams.
That's the only thing I need to hear, man. I'm taking Atlanta minus 3.5. Atlanta can't really cover a spread, which is a little frustrating. Like they win a bunch of games close. They let the teams hang in there. They got to kick game-winning field goals. They got to.
Did they beat this? No, they beat the Saints earlier in the year.
On the game, was it a game-winning field goal? They did beat the Saints. I kind of forget how it went. Wasn't it high scoring?
Young Ho Koo like blasted like a 59-yard field goal or something.
Are you thinking of the Tampa game though? I think you're thinking of the Tampa game on Thursday night. Falcons beat the Saints 26-24. Well, maybe you are right. Maybe did he do it both times? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Younghoe Koo. Yes, because it was the Kamara touchdown that put him up a point, and then Younghoe Koo hit the 58-yard field goal as time expired. Yes. So yeah, but that was back when we thought the Saints were kind of good. That was
So obviously
the
line is low because of interim coach voodoo. Saints have lost 7 in a row.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, Michael. I feel like this Falcon team, when they have to play like the quote unquote good teams,
Yeah.
they can't hang with them, right? This feels like to me a game that they're going to win and cover and get people to believe in them. And then when they have to play a good opponent, like when I say good, I mean like San Fran once they start getting healthy.
Like they play at Minnesota in a few weeks.
Like, yeah, like I'm taking the Falcons as well. The Saints are just so banged up. And honestly, at some point, if you're the Saints, when do you consider just shutting Kamara down because he has the broken hand as well, and just tank? And then I don't know, like
I mean, they have so much dead cap. Like they need to really just
they
burn
can't
everything to the
afford
ground.
to sign the player that they draft. Like if they're in a position to draft Travis Hunter, Michael, they can't afford him on the cap.
I mean, listen, that's why they dumped. That's why they dumped Lattimore.
So yeah, let's take the Falcons. Like, why not?
Next game we have is the Broncos Chiefs. People are very, very skeptical. People are betting the Broncos spread. The Chiefs were nine
Well,
point
because of what happened
favorites.
last year. That's
It's
exactly why.
moved to 7.5. The Chiefs, like, they're not going to go undefeated. I really believe they are not. And they have a divisional game every year that's a little gutsy and tough, and maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm gonna take Denver plus 7.5. I don't think they're gonna win, maybe, but it just feels like a game that Kansas City's gonna win like 24-20, and they're just on offense and they get like the big first down as a big bailout
Yeah. So
penalty.
like, just real quick, like teams that are so when it comes to the spread like has come into play. I think only like 21 times this year.
Yeah, it's been very minimal. The teams that are winning are covering.
But the team that fails at this a lot is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, they're 4-3-1 against the spread despite their
And they've
8-0
been
record.
favored in every game. There's no way they've been underdogs in any time this season, Michael. Right?
I think you're right, but let me double check. Like week 1, they were 3-point favorites. Week 2, they were 6-point favorites, did not cover. Week 3, they were 3-point favorites and covered. Week 4, they were 7.5-point favorites, did not cover. Week 5, they were 5.5-point favorites and covered. Week 6 their bye? Yes. Yes, week 6 was their bye. Week 7, they were 2-point yeah, they were underdogs against the Niners. I knew they were underdogs once. They were at San Francisco, they were underdogs. 2-point
Yeah, I'm taking
underdogs.
the Broncos as well. Oh, also, Daniel Jones just got intercepted by Xavier Woods.
Very good. Very, very
10
good.
nothing 10-0 Panthers.
Where's the ball?
At the Panthers own 23-yard line. The Giants were
So it was
driving.
a red zone. Nice.
Yeah.
Next game we have are the 49ers and the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are 6.5-point underdogs at home. The Niners are another team that can't cover a spread. 4-4 against the spread. They're 4-4 straight up. They're
Well,
still.
things could be different today.
I'm taking San Francisco. Nah, I'm not. I'm taking Tampa to cover 6.5. I feel as though Tampa has done exceptionally well when they're big-ish underdogs this year. If I had to guess, they're 5-4 against the spread. Like, the games that they're winning or covering in, they're doing a damn good job at just keeping games close. Even last week, against Kansas City, they forced overtime, kept it close. Like had a chance. They should have just went for it, try to win the game. But yeah, so I'm taking Tampa plus 6.5.
I'm going to take Tampa minus plus 6.5 as well. Mike Evans is back. This Liam Cohen offense has been playing really well despite the massive amounts of injuries. And I think he's definitely coaching himself to get interviews for head coaching positions. I don't think he'll get it if the Buccaneers finish with like 8 wins. It's kind of hard to hire a guy to be your head coach if he's the coordinator of a team that has,
Yeah, you'd have to look at some peripherals to.
like there's always peripherals. You're right,
Yeah.
involved in that.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about today. I'm very skeptical of CMC in what he's going to do today because I
Is he
can't.
playing?
He is playing.
I
He
didn't
is
think he was
minus
playing.
210 to score a touchdown today, Michael.
That's pretty. Wow. Wow.
I'm skeptical because he hasn't played since the Super Bowl. Hasn't played
Yeah.
in 11 months. Well, no, 9 months. I can't imagine they're just going to force feed him the ball. Actually, I can't believe they'll force feed him the ball because Kyle Shanahan, his biggest weakness is how reckless he is when it comes to managing his players.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to take Tampa Bay. I think Mike Evans is going to have a monster day. He's had all those straight weeks with 1,000 yards receiving or 1,000 seasons, 1,000 yards. Could you see him just going off for like 200 yards today? Like
Um,
vintage Mike Evans performance.
I
That
think
Niners
Mike.
secondary is not good.
Yeah. I mean, it is bad. I would like to see a nice Mike Evans day, like Mike Evans. I want him to get 1,000 yards, and it's like going to cut close if he plays the rest of the year. Um, Next game we have is the Patriots and the Bears. The Bears are 6-point favorites.
Bears are a mess, dude.
Did the Bears deserve to ever be 6-point favorites? Like their offense just is
I mean, I don't know. Do the
so
Giants
bad.
deserve to be 6.5-point favorites?
No, and we took Carolina, and that's going to hit. So
I don't know. I think the Patriots are not a very well coached team, though. That's the
um,
every criticism you're gonna have on like the Bears is like worse on like the Patriots. I think.
probably. And I like Caleb Williams. I like the
New
Bears. I
England's
want them to
engineering a
succeed.
tank, Michael. Like when they lost to the Titans, that was like a process loss.
Yeah, that was. All right, I'll take the Bears. You convinced me.
I'm taking the Bears as well. I think Caleb's going to have a really good game today. They're at home. They're not playing a road Sunday game where they've lost 18 straight, Michael, in the
Mm.
Matt Eberflus era. The last time they won a road Sunday game, they were playing in Seattle. Nick
It was
Foles was
yeah,
the
you
starting quarterback of the
Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears.
Next game, we open up
Yeah.
the 4 o'clock window with the Titans and the Chargers. My goodness. The Chargers -8 is where I'm going to be picking. The Titans are very, very bad, and they're coming off a win, which just feels miraculous. I think Will Levis is going to be back. The Chargers are like a playoff team. Like I like the Chargers. I think they're
Mhm.
good. I don't know if we talked about it. I really don't remember if it was us talking about it or if it was
I
me and
actually
Nick, but it
love
was
Lad McConkey to get a touchdown today. Everyone on their
it'd be
team got
nice.
a
Feels like
touchdown
he's
last week, but
long
him.
overdue. But I really forget who I was talking about this with, but it was like if you could pick one AFC team that is the team you do not want to play in the playoffs, that's like not Kansas City, basically. And I think there's legitimate nerves with the Chargers. I think every team should fear playing the Chargers. They run the ball effectively. They're throwing the ball a lot better now too. Herbert's just kind of cooking, and they play good defense, and that's like just and it's a team that like their home field advantage isn't really a thing, so it's not like they're going to be bad on the road or anything like that. Like it just doesn't matter for them. Like home games are basically road games. So, you're a division winner. You're the Ravens, you're the Chiefs, you're the Bills, you're the Texans. I would not want to see the Chargers coming into town on wild card weekend to potentially just derail a season because he's pretty good. So yeah, I like the Chargers a
Herbert's the
lot.
comeback player of the year because he came back from hell. No, I'm just
He
kidding.
was he was hurt. He could get consideration. He was hurt last year, but yeah, both taking the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the Titans blow. I mean, I'm so happy Will Levis is playing today, Michael, because I
Hmm.
can't wait to see the meme of him just doing something stupid.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Man, the Panthers were plus
It's really bright in
225
your
on the
room, by
money
the
line.
way. You have like the light shining on
Yeah,
you.
I know. It's the windows open, but it's like there's no sun. It's just the sky that's like in and out. Next game is Eagle Cowboy that we're skipping. Jets Cardinals 4:30. Ugh, ugh. Uh, I don't know where I'm at with this game. Like the Jets are 1.5 point favorites on the road in Arizona. Um, the Jets. It looks like that Devontae Adams Rogers connection's heating up a bit, and that Jets defense, or sorry, that Cardinals defense is very, very bad. The Jets defense still really hasn't looked good since
I'll tell you
Saleh left.
I think the Jets are just stupid. Michael, is that even though they have two great receivers, they never
Mhm.
commit to the run. And if you look at all the
No.
games that they've lost with Rodgers, it's because of bad time management and the fact that they could effectively run the ball, they would never put themselves in those positions in the first place to
Yeah,
lose.
like they've just they've been so uninspiring.
Now the
But
Cardinals are in first place in the NFC West. This is the latest they've been in first place in the NFC West since like 2021.
mhm, mhm.
And
Yeah.
let's be real here. Um, if you're going to pick the Jets, are you going to pick the Jets because Jonathan Gannon just can't beat good quarterbacks?
Mhm.
Like, is that going to be our
Like, if you're picking the
justification here?
Jets, you're picking the Jets because you think you're believing in the offense clicking and the passing game
I think
clicking,
this
and
is
the
going to be a high
Cardinals are
scoring
just
game. That
bad.
Jets
Yeah, so do
defense
I.
is very bad when they're
Yeah.
not at home.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
And I
I'm
think
taking the
Sauce Gardner,
Cardinals.
I have this. I don't know if this is a hot take or not. But I think Sauce Gardner is the most overrated defensive player in football.
Oh, man. Ah, like, perhaps, I don't know. He's definitely having a down year compared to the first couple years, but I don't think it's the
And I
same.
mean,
He's
and when
bad.
I say that, I mean, are we thinking Marvin Harrison? Like, this would be like the Marvin Harrison, like, breakout performance. Like, I don't need to see Greg Dortch. I don't need to see Michael Wilson.
Yeah, they need to do a better job of getting the ball to Marvin. It's just the team doesn't do a good job. He's maybe not playing as good as they'd hoped right away, but feels like you can just manufacture some catches a little bit easier. But regardless, I'm taking the Cardinals plus 1.5. I just don't. I
Ooh.
don't trust the Jets. Don't love the Jets. And I think I want the Cardinals to kind of push for that division.
I think the Cardinals, every time they're an underdog, have either outright won or covered. Except for I think except for like one game this year. Can you hear me, Michael? You're frozen on my screen. Hello? Michael? Michael, you there? Hello? Hello? Bueller? Well, I think we might have lost Michael. I'm going to text him. Hold on. Michael, I think we may have lost you here. Hold on. Okay. All right. Michael lost his internet, so we're just going to go start picking games. Okay, so I think we're both taking the Cardinals here. All right, so the next game is the Detroit Lions in Houston to take on the Texans. The Lions are 3.5 point favorites. Texans are sputtering right now. CJ Stroud has not looked good. The Lions have been firing on all cylinders. Ever since the Buccaneers game. Their offense has just been putting up massive amounts of points. This is another indoor game for the Lions. Listen, they're laying 3.5 points. Look, I love the Detroit Lions in this game. I don't trust Stroud. I don't really see this offense stopping, even though the Texans have Nico Collins back. I just think that the Lions, until we see the Lions have a bad performance, I think you just need to keep picking them. So yeah, I'm taking the Detroit Lions. And Michael has just texted me, and he is also taking the Detroit Lions as well. Lions are 7-1 against the spread, while the Texans are 3-6. Okay, next game. This will be our last game until we talk about the Eagle game. The Dolphins travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Rams need to win this game to stay in competition for the NFC West. The Rams are laying 1.5 points at home. The Dolphins have just been really bad all season. Tua is finally back healthy. I think this is going to be another high-scoring game. I'm going to take the Rams. The Dolphins right now are just a mess all over, and I think I think this is going to come down to a field goal, and I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to take the Rams to cover. Michael also likes the Rams, and now we have the Eagle-Cowboy game. The Eagles are laying 7 points on the road in Dallas for the first time, and it has to be years. I would have to say maybe like 2017 when the Cowboys were missing Zeke. Listen, there's no reason why the Eagles should not bury this Cowboys team. But the Eagles just struggle when they're laying out big point spreads. I'm going to take the Cowboys to cover. I just don't trust the Eagles, Sirianni, to be able to cover a big spread. Michael is taking the Eagles as well. And yeah, I'm going to take that and them as well. Michael's taking the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win, but I think the Cowboys will cover the 7. And that's our show. So, I think Michael's saying that he had a circuit breaker switch on and off, which turned his internet off. But so hopefully that won't happen next week when we do the show. But thank you for tuning in, everyone. We appreciate all of your support, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.